Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. We are with the founder and creator of Nobelia.org. We're talking today more about the work of Sabastian and congratulating him on being our professional of the year. Excited to talk more about the moreness that he offers and the change and the help of breaking free of your limitations and just going beyond what we know to live our best lives. So welcome back today. How are you?
Most excellent. I love your introduction. It's so
No,
brilliant.
no,
It's so
no.
brilliant.
You're so kind. How can we contact you? Tell us the website we should go to.
Nobelia.org/connect.
Perfect. And tell us a
Yeah,
little bit about what it
easy,
is that
easy.
you do. My goodness, there's
Wow.
so much to
I,
your whole
yeah,
self-discovery
yeah.
and
Oh, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
oh, oh,
I love your questions. Keep
oh
going. I'm
no, I
too
mean he's
excited.
got this amazing Facebook group, the self-discovery group, and it's always live, right? Sunday through Friday from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard
Correct.
Time. You could subscribe
Yeah,
there to his website as well and ask
yeah.
any questions. So tell us a little about
Brilliant.
what you have in
Right.
store for us today.
All right. Just on the Facebook group. The Facebook group is there all the time. Of course, it's a
Yeah,
regular group, but I do a live in the group every day from let's see, 10 Pacific to 10 to 12 Pacific, more or less. It varies
yeah,
in time. But and anybody can join. We hang out and we discuss stuff. It's myself and a friend, a really good friend who's very involved in this. So it's just a nice time to get into real fine detail if you want. But other than that, today, I'm going to continue with way of impeccability on clarity of intent. But I specifically want to talk about why it's
sure.
so important to have clarity of intent. Last week, we connected it to your children and how it can connect to them via what am I doing? And this, of
Yeah,
course, applies to adults too. And then we take that little d doing and we expand it to capital V doing. And now we say, what am I doing with my life, with my soul, my spirit, my energy, everything, right? And then you start to get to oneness,
yeah,
taking that and extrapolating it all the way. But today, I would say, why clarity of intent? Why does it matter so much? It
yeah,
matters incredibly because of emphasis. You're going to
yeah,
say, what do you mean? What is it? It's got something to do with this because of the way the brain works. The brain is entirely focused and structured and it's come about to be uh, how it learns and actually literally changes is because of emphasis. It's really incredible. So when we emphasize something, it literally changes the wiring in the brain. The nodes
yeah,
get bigger, the little connectivities between the thing that's emphasized, those connections get stronger and bigger, which means now that whatever that enlargement is, it starts to connect to other nodes that are more or less similar and more connections. And the more emphasized, the more connectivity. Now, this works both positively and it works also negatively, which is when it comes to trauma or PTSD, right? You've got
yeah,
the negative event that was severely emphasized and it rewires your brain. But all of our learning is also emphasis. It might not be as dramatic as that or on dramatic things like, when your first child was born and stuff like that. You really remember it in exquisite detail, right? You remember every little nuance. Yes, Joe? And your children were born? You do? Yeah?
of
For
course.
most people, right? They remember. It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Now, that's emphasis. But likewise, what do we learn? Think about back to school. What do you remember from school? Well, pretty much nothing. Yes,
I know,
except
right? It's so true.
right. Except though, I remember lots of things from school, not necessarily from the school work necessarily, but I remember things that happened during school. Why? Because they were important and they mattered. Yes. And I call those memorable events or significant experiences, which is a particular topic of it. But just in general, if something is important to us, we tend to remember it. Why? Because it's important. Now, let's take that the other way around and say, when I have clarity of intent, clarity, not just an intent, but clarity of intent, which I can have multiple intents, but it means that when I have an intent, I'm going to be very clear about it. Now, we have to say, well, what do you mean by an intent here? Well, what's the difference between an intent and a want? Well, if I want something, I want that Ferrari, for instance, but I don't necessarily intend getting it because well, I want it, but I realized to get it is kind of a big deal and a big hassle, will involve a lot of energy, a lot of work. I'll have to save up or get, whatever. Oh, okay, yeah, I just want it, but if I get it, nice, but I'm not going to really make an effort to get it. However, I intend to publish my next book, which I am doing. This is a real intent, or to write the book. Now, when you intend something, you are committing to making it happen. That's what an intent is, yes? And this is the difference between intent and intention. An intention is very much similar to a want. But you sort of saying, well, maybe I will actually make an effort. But the intention doesn't really commit you. There's an intent, it's a commitment. And I'm very, I pay a lot of attention to the usage of this word. You hear people throw this word intention around a lot, but it's almost like kind of an empty wish, really, because it's like a hope, really, that they hope they will do it, but they're not really committed to it. Someone says, I intend to do it. You know they really mean to do this. There's no doubt they're going to do this. And if we set an intent fully, properly, you're also going to involve your energy, your will, as it were. And this something is going to mean that when you set an intent, you're involving the universe. Now, yeah, this sounds a little woo-woo, but think about the word itself and go and research and look at the history of the word and understand the difference between intent and intention. And then you see, oh, oh, yes, when we talk in common language, wow, they really intend to do this. No, those people are involving more than just their desire to do it, they want, right? You know about intent, Jill, if I understand things correctly, and about setting intents, yes? Jill?
No, for sure.
Right,
I want to
right.
know about the
I saw
book.
you nod there.
I want to know about the book that you're working on.
Okay. I'll get there in a moment. Let me just finish on this
I
point
know,
of
I know, I
intent.
know.
Yes, I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. But to set an intent. No, no, it's all good. I love that you want to know about the book. This is great. I'm very excited about the book. But to set an intent is something that you're committing and you're involving the universe. So I'm doing everything that I can do. But when you set an intent, stuff happens around you. I'm going to connect this even more excitedly to why it matters to be so very clear. Because the more clear we are on our intent, in other words, I have no reservations, I have no doubts, I have no, maybe I'm a bit guilty about none of the stuff, no reservations, no restrictions. This is what I want to do. I feel fully justified in doing so.
Uh-huh.
I feel fully substantiated. I have no excuses of well, maybe I don't deserve it. None of that nonsense. No, this is something that I intend to get. Not want, not like, not hope, but intend. I'm going to do it. Now, with that clarity, my brain is now, wow, this is a lot of emphasis. Yeah.
Yeah.
All those nodes are very focused. What happens? Now, this is the magic of having clarity of intent. Now, this is where pertinence and relevance come. Your brain now starts to take all of that massive information that's all around us every day. There's tons of it, right? And you get all that spam and junk email and stuff we see on TV, on the internet, wherever, right? Now suddenly it starts picking out and filtering what is connected to your intent. And you notice stuff you never noticed before. This is the power of clarity of intent, yes? And from having set intent, when you get on that path, it's like, man, wow, suddenly stuff happens and stuff comes to you, it seems
Yeah.
like. But is it really coming to you? Or is it you just connected to it, noticing it? And wow, there's a door. Well, it's opportunity. It seems like it's coming to you, but really you're noticing it and you're opening that door and stepping through. It's magic. That's what it feels like. It's not really magic. It's selective emphasis, really. That's the way the brain works. But the experience is one that it's quite magical. How things come to you when you have that clarity of intent, right? And
Yeah.
also, people start to help you, right, Joe? When you have a
Yeah.
real key intent, people start to help you and they connect to you. They say, "Oh man, this is so brilliant! Everybody's like, it's like the whole world is your team." Because as human beings, we have an extraordinary ability to perceive intent. But I never heard of intent before. It doesn't matter. You still have the ability to perceive it.
Yep.
You know when that lion wants to eat you, and when the lion is chilling and lying by the water hole and its belly's full, and you
Totally.
can
Yep. Yep.
clearly
Yep.
exactly. You know it entirely, right? Same thing with people. You walk into a business meeting, and it's like, these guys aren't all that friendly. I mean, they're not receiving me too well, but or they are positive, right? Or it's like, they couldn't care two hoots. They intent, their intent. And if somebody stands up in the meeting and starts talking, man, their intent is just to self promote. They're not here for the meeting. You know it right away, right? We might not use the word, but we are geniuses at perceiving intent because it's
Yeah.
how we survived all these millennia. Now, we are to use this mechanism of intent because we know it, we understand it. And that's what I was saying. When we have clarity of intent, others perceive our intent. And there's a magical thing. When somebody really wants something very badly and they've made it into an intent, somehow we like to help them. It's just part of our nature. Yes, this is the world. When somebody truly wants something really badly, just think back to kids who had a real deep passion for something and it could be completely crazy. People all help them get whatever they want, right? It's same thing in adult life too. Uh, Not maybe as much, but still, the world tends to want to help us get what's truly, truly important to us. Because we aren't doing it to indulge ourselves. When we set an intent, it's not about like some kind of indulgence, some fantasy, silly thing.
Mm-hmm.
No, this matters. This matters to you. Yes, it's important to you. And how do you not want to help somebody get and do what is truly, truly important to them? Yeah,
Yeah.
you're making the world a better place. It's a big deal. Yeah. All right. So now to get to the book. The next, I'm
Sure.
actually going to be releasing two of them, Jill, not just one, two more. I
Wow.
already have two published. I'm releasing
Mm-hmm.
two. And they are very connected to Nobelia
Okay.
because the books are called Ask Biella, Questions Answered. Book one and book two. They'll be released separately, but they're the same, just in two book forms. Otherwise, it'd be too much for one book. And what these are is Biella, who is the central character of the Biella series, and she lives on Nobelia. But in this iteration, she's here on Earth answering questions, right? So it started as an advice column in a newspaper, the Gateway Gazette, and so people would ask questions, and Biella would answer the question. And I had many of these, and the articles in the newspaper. But then the newspaper stopped being, and I kept the articles, and it continued somewhat to that. Other questions on Quora and on just on in the group and on my blog and stuff like that. So I kept all the articles because I would post them as articles
Yeah.
each time, answer them. Let me put them into a book. Um, it's pretty fun and pretty exciting coming out. And I'll actually give you a preview. I'll be sharing lots about the book when it comes out more. It's still busy making it. Still, busy getting all the publishing aspects connected. There's more coming to it, but I'll definitely share more as we go along because there's a lot to the book, more than one would expect, and that's typically, at least with what I do, because of moreness. That's why the website is called Nobelia.org, Self-Discovery Moreness Project. Yes. And there's always more to it. Yeah? There's lots of moreness involved. And moreness is just going beyond what you expect, going into that unknown territory where there is stuff that's exciting, that's profound, that's sublime, and that's life changing, that's transformative, that matters. And it's exciting and positive at the same time. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I want to just give you a quick glimpse here uh, of, of 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 the book, and I have to load it. Just give me a second. Anyway,
Sure.
you wanted to know. So
You
the
could shut. Yeah.
articles.
Are you going to share? Are you going to share your screen?
Yes, I'm going to screen share in a moment. Yes,
Perfect.
I wanted to say though, in terms of the questions, boy, did I get asked the most fabulous of fabulous questions in uh, during this, the time that I did this. It just fascinated me how I got asked questions I never would have ever sort of expected to be asked.
Okay.
It was an advice column, and you would think, well, okay, typical advice columns are all
Yeah.
about relationships and stuff like that. I think I might have gotten one question,
Okay.
one that was specifically, and it sounded like it was from a teenage girl, and it was, how do I get him to notice me more? And there was
Oh,
actually more to the question. I'll share it with you in a moment.
sure.
I'm just letting it load. But I got just the most incredible, amazing questions. Let me share a few here while
Sure.
that loads. I'll share a few. I'll screen share in a moment. Because
Sure.
I want to share just the questions now. So the very first question I got was, I want smart friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, yes, oh, I want smart friends. What's a good way to do that? Now, you would think, okay, Biela's going to say how you go about getting smart friends. But Biela's Biela. And Biela also has lots of mourners to her. And nothing that you're going to expect is what you're going to get when it comes to
Yeah.
Biela. And as such, Biela says, your emphasis, she feels, says, dear questioner. I don't remember, I'm just quoting off memory now, I'm not
Okay.
remembering the exact words. But she says, essentially, she says to the questioner, your emphasis on smart is misplaced. That when you think about this, when you actually really go into it, you really want smart friends.
Yeah.
It says why? Because it is smart is something that is usually, based on an artificiality. Really, what really matters in friendship isn't
Yeah.
whether you're smart or not. What matters in friendship is the quality of connectivity and goodness and kindness and generosity and caring and the celebration of who you are and appreciate, etc. So she gets into a whole long explanation of why smartness is not very highly valued in friendships, at least not for her. And so it's a different answer. I mean, I'm not going to read the whole thread.
Sure.
We could if you want to. I mean, I'm happy to share it. We're doing it in the Facebook lives. Well, we're on book 2 now. I've been reading the Bina, my friend Bina and I, reading going through the entire chapter and reading it. We call them capital R readings, which
Okay.
means we kind of read them sentence by
Yeah.
sentence, and we see the nuance and layeredness and the extra connectivity and how it relates and so on. And it's incredible how much more there is. Yeah, like everything she says has got layeredness to it, and she will kind of like come at things in a way that you don't expect, like in her answer there, where she says, dear potential friend, I hear you. I'm reading the exact name. But
Okay.
I feel your search focus is misplaced on smartness, she puts it in inverted commas. In actuality, it matters little. I've had fantastic conversations and interactions, months and weeks long or more, with individuals who might not be regarded as smart, certainly not by themselves. Yet these interactions were phenomenal, sustaining, fulfilling, enlivening, profound. Why? Many factors, none related to smart. I want to know the rest, you'll have to read the book. Otherwise, we'll be spending our time on the book, and I want to get back to way of impeccability. But I want to just give you a quick glimpse here,
Sure.
because the book is a little different. Now, I know uh, many are listening on they're just listening to it.
Okay.
I can't screen share. I can't screen share.
Oh, it should be able to.
Yeah,
It's
normally it has the link right there. Oh, there it is. Oh, I was looking under more. Never mind. I got it.
no problem.
Yeah. On mine, because I have my screen a bit narrower,
There we
I
go.
click on
Gotcha.
more, as we say. So here's
Go
the
ahead.
title, right? You see, there's Ask Piala, question one, book one, 5 lessons, advice, and alternative solutions. Now this needs to be changed. This was a typo, and they're busy changing it now. It's alternative solutions to self-help. But this is what I wanted to show you. As we go down, we have all the usual stuff, and yeah, let's get there we go. Let's get to chapter one. So there's chapter one. I want smart friends, and then we've got some art, and yes, the article. I don't know if you're seeing it. There we go, right? And then as we scroll down, you'll see, oh, wait a minute, there's more art. Now this is the preview of the book. It's not the you're not seeing it full screen, of course, right? If I go to preview, you'll see it. But you get the idea. There's all the chapters have art in them. Yeah? And the art is very much related to the question, how can I find peace and happiness? And then related to the answers, or to the responses, right? And there's tons of art. And I put in, there's 100 different ways to look at Biela. She doesn't have a specific image. In my mind, she somewhat does. But, I look for somebody who exemplifies more. Yes, and there's a section in the front that says about Biela. Biela is somewhat of an ideal, and someone we can aspire to, but in a feasible, realistic way, because we see Biela exemplifying all of what we're talking about with way of impeccability. It's all there in everything she does and everything she shares. And she shares these different perspectives. And in some of the chapters, she really lays this out in a big way. Right? So I'm just scrolling real quick through this. You get an idea. The art is very different, right? Jill, if you had to describe it for those not hearing it, we have another picture of you. Right?
Perfect.
So I encourage, those who are listening and want to see the art. Obviously, when the book comes out, you get it to see it. But if you really
Mm-hmm.
want to see more of that, come and hang out with us on the live and we'll share and we'll get into it. Because, I'm trying to not do so much visual to share. However, there is one thing to get back to our way of impeccability and clarity of intent. Yes, and you asked, what do I do? Mainly what I do is run self-change and life change programs, right? And they are geared towards deliberate living. You see, we just live
Wow.
ordinarily. Yes, that's fine. It's nice. But when you live deliberately,
Yeah.
everything changes. Everything changes, right? And this is very exciting to live deliberately. And you know this, right? You know about deliberate living and you know about intent. So it's there in your life. But when we have these tools
Mm-hmm.
where we know them consciously and we know them deliberately, it enhances everything we do. In other words, I was talking about intent. Not actually no intent. But when I started to be more specific about it and to name it and to point out examples, oh yes, I know exactly what you mean now. I was
Wow.
making the obvious obvious. And that's what my job is, making the obvious obvious. I know it sounds foolish in a way, but the obvious wasn't obvious until it became obvious,
Wow.
right? Right? I mean, that moment before,
Yeah.
you probably know with your kids, right? You
Yes.
walk in on your kids, and the two kids are involved in something and that they shouldn't be doing, and they're
Uh-huh.
completely involved, right? And then you walk into the room and you say, "What are you doing?" Right? That's how they look at you, right? With that open mouth.
Yeah.
In that moment that you ask, you pop the bubble. The moment you ask, the obvious became obvious. That, oh, literally a second ago, I was very involved in doing what I was doing, and I was completely not realizing it was inappropriate and I shouldn't be doing it. But now that you say, what am I doing? Oh, crap, I'm in trouble. Yeah. Now, this gets a lot of kids into trouble because when they did it, they didn't think they were doing something bad. But when you said it, they realized it retroactively and then they feel guilty. And then, of course, now they were doing bad and then they get into trouble. Right? At least when I was kids got hyped because of this.
Yeah.
But it's profound when you realize that those children literally a second before you said that, or even when you walk in, there's an awareness that happens, and now they become aware what they weren't aware of a few seconds ago. Right? It changed completely. Their reality changed. They were in a bubble where they were
Mm-hmm.
quite innocently being stupid, right, and foolish, and maybe
Yeah.
doing something that they shouldn't be doing, but it
Yep.
was innocent. They didn't mean it. But the moment you said it, and to me, I feel parents should really be aware of this because now, if you look at their intent, yes, they were doing what they shouldn't do, but was their intent to not do that, or were they just caught up in the moment? Yeah. So now, to me, that becomes an opportunity for a lesson on awareness and appropriateness,
Mm-hmm.
rather than scolding them for doing something which, or giving them, punishment of some kind for doing something they had no intent to really do. They didn't know. They were ignorant and unaware. And I know from my own experience,
Yep.
when you point this out and say, I realized at the time your intent was good.
Yeah.
However, you were in a bubble. You didn't look bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
And, I always got it. Okay. You know, I mean, I can tell you some not so nice stories where I did kind of not nice things. And then my bubble was popped and I felt terrible. But I also realized that, actually, a fun story just came up with my brother. I I was 5 or 6 years old, and my brother's 4 years older than me. So he invites me up into the tree. He'd made a hammock in a poplar tree, very those big, wide poplar trees, right? Kind of similar
Yep.
to the ones behind me. And he made it fairly high up. Anyway, so he's lying in the hammock and snoozing away, and I'm sitting on the branch where he's got the hammock tied. And I'm like, okay, well, you chilling and doing nothing, and I'm a bit bored. And he had the hammock tied with
Yeah.
wire, like twisty wire.
You're like,
Oh,
what?
this is very interesting. Yeah, I'm sitting there like he's lying in the hammock. He didn't invite me to lie in the hammock, and it didn't seem like there was going to be any chance of me lying in the hammock either. Anyway, so I'm just like, all right, well, this is pretty interesting. And I was quite impressed that he tied it very neatly. He made a nice neat twist of it, right?
Yeah.
So I start untwisting the wire. Yes, the wire. How does this work? I'm just curious about it. I'm just interested and fascinated by this twisting wire. So I start untwisting it. And of course, the next thing I hear this great big howl when my brother goes plummeting to the earth. And anyway, and there was like this kind of this old stone wall at the bottom. It was very high, like 2 feet high. And he bumped his head on it. Right there. I cannot tell you this was the funniest thing ever. So right here on this spot here, how he managed to bump his head there, I don't know. But this egg comes up, and that lump egg is about this high, right? It comes through the skin, like you see in the comic books, right? A friend of mine said on Mad Magazine they had Alfie with the famous lump on his head. I couldn't contain myself. It was so funny. But of course, what every sensible kid does when you got trouble and, you need to remedy things, you go to the kitchen, right? That's where you
So
solve all
true.
problems.
Yep. Yep.
So, so what do you think we did with this lump of this to fix it? Of course, applied the only sensible remedy there is. We smeared all sorts of butter on top of it, great big lumps of butter. Oh my God, this was the funniest thing. This skin, that skin that comes up, no hair on it, right? Like pale skin, this lump sticking out is it glistening with butter. Oh, I still remember it. But anyway, my point was about immersion into something which I was doing that untwisting. And I didn't realize it was going to drop of course, the hammock to cry. I had no clue. The moment it fell, I was, oh, yeah, I did that. I only shared this. The reason I'm sharing the story is because I only shared it to my brother now. I don't know what, 50 years later or something. More. Anyway, because at the time I thought, I really thought about it. Well, where's the value in telling him? He's already fallen, he's already bumped his head, not going to help anything.
Yeah.
So I never told him at the time, but I shared with him the other day. But still, it's that bubble. We do things that we don't know have negative consequences until it happens. And then our brains are quite amazingly retroactive. And we have to be careful. I really considered whether I should feel guilty or not. It was quite a thing. It stuck with me for a long time. I said, how can I feel guilty? I didn't know. I felt bad that he bumped his head, even though it was profoundly funny that egg is not coming out of his head. It was the most hilarious thing because it was like the comics were real. I'd only seen it in comic books, and I don't even remember seeing it in the comic books, but it was so funny. But again, to appreciate and understand our own awareness, that's
Yeah.
the serious point that I make, to really be aware. But we got to go. So we'll talk about it
I
more next week.
know. All right. Thank you so much.
It's all good, Joe. All good.
All right.
Good
Remind us how we can contact you.
Yes, nobelia.org/connect.
All right. Thank you so much. And if you don't
Oh,
mind,
thank
stop
you, Joe.
sharing your screen so we could say
Oh,
goodbye.
yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, gosh, dang it.
It works better that way. Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
oh,
Phil
yeah.
Sebastian.
Yeah.
We appreciate your
Yeah.
time. Always a
Bye-bye,
pleasure.
everybody.
Thank you, Sil.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.